You might think it was easier back then, though, because Russell was playing against a bunch of nobodies. And you've got me there. He only had to go through Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Hal Greer, Dolph Schayes, Oscar Robertson, Willis Reed, Nate...
All right, welcome back to another After Dark, everyone. Hope you all having a good night so far. Hope you guys are having a good day. All right, this one is long overdue. You know who you are in the comments. I see you there every day. My bad, man. My bad. I know I promised to do this a long time ago. It got past me. It slipped past me. I forgot about it. But your recent comment asking me if I'm ever gonna do it, that hit me. So like the second I read that message, I'm like, oh my god, I really got to do this. Plus, I always wanted to react to this. This is making the case. Bill Russell from Clayton Crowley. This is one of those. Okay, I think I watched a lot of this series many years ago. Probably 6 years ago, or whenever these videos came out. But I don't remember them all particular because it was like one of those I just marathon watched all of this. So I'm actually really excited to do this. Bill Walton is always going to be I'm understanding him more and more as I progress on this channel. I now know him to be one of the greatest defenders of all time, greatest rebounders of all time, a hell of a passer, so a great playmaker. But I guess his only weakness was scoring, and even that, it doesn't seem like I won't say he's a bad scorer, but it seems like that's the only negative thing that you can pin on Bill. But I'm sure this video is going to fill in some gaps for me. I don't have much else to say about it. I also know him as possibly the greatest winner of all time. But it's always hard, you guys. Whenever it's somebody that was before my time and there's limited footage, it's always hard for me to make an assessment. Wilt Chamberlain's right there too. I'm trying to understand it better as time goes on. And I really appreciate videos like this that come out because there's not any mainstream media content, it seems like, that really pays respect to these pioneers to the game. So anyways, you guys, without further ado, I'm going to link the original video down below in the description for you guys. This is the Clayton Crowley channel. If you haven't subbed over here, I highly recommend it. Great basketball content here. I'm actually looking at it and I'm kind of surprised at the 121,000 subs. I kind of thought this would be in the million range. So yeah, definitely check out the description for this video if you wanna head over to that video or that channel and subscribe. There's also a list of channel members down there in that description. I appreciate you all. You guys are awesome. Everyone, please leave this video a like. It'll push it out in the algorithm. And without further ado, I'm gonna put my thinking cap on and try to learn as much as possible here, okay?
Basketball is special. The size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists. And because of the different styles that basketball allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity, flair,
pistol,
and athleticism. And although no player succeeds alone, the scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past in order to answer the most hotly contested question in the sport: who's the greatest to ever do it? For many, the question is redundant. They believe in only one right answer: their answer. Others might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. By my count, there are 8 players.
Let's run an experiment. Everybody, down below, put down where do you have Bill Russell ranked in your top 10? Okay? And I'm going to try to remember. I want to do that again at the end of this video to see if this video changes anyone's perspective. Where's Bill for me, man? Bill's always floating around 6 to 7 for me. 6 or 7, right in that range. And Wilt Chamberlain's right there with him. I always pair them together. And it's always hard for me to place them, to tell you the truth. So I'm curious about you guys. Put it in the comments, and then we'll see afterwards. And I mean, I'll see too if it changes my mind.
Players in NBA history that have a substantial claim as the GOAT. It's a subjective thing, though. I can't give you a definitive answer.
Yep.
All I can do is make the argument.
That's
So
why I
today,
like these videos.
I'll be making the case for Bill Russell as the greatest basketball player of all time.
Love it. All right, here we go.
Imagine what I'm trying to do. I'm speaking to the most data-driven, analytically obsessed, statistically fixated generation of basketball fans that has ever lived.
Yeah.
And I'm not just speaking to you. I'm making the argument that the greatest player of all time is one who, rather than scoring in high volume or with top-notch efficiency, excelled at defense, an aspect of the game that went virtually unrecorded for this player's entire career, an aspect which, even today, the most advanced metrics still provide an incomplete picture of. More than that, though, this player excelled in the wrinkles of basketball, manipulating the fabric of the game into his own design. This player is remembered for his unparalleled ability to lead, to inspire, to foster cohesion and self-sacrifice in favor of loftier goals, to dance along the line that blurs team and brotherhood. These empirically irrelevant skills resulted in the most successful professional sports dynasty in North American history.
And considering that he's never lost a Game 7, I mean, like I said, I didn't get to watch it, but you have to assume he must have been clutch, right? Okay, anybody out there who knows, like, did he ever have a collapse in the playoffs where he just, like, completely just crapped the bed? Because I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to know. But that no losing Game 7s his entire career definitely kind of signifies to me that when everything is on the line, he don't lose.
History. To begin making Russell's case, I want you to remember these legendary words from NFL head coach Herm Edwards.
Okay. Yes.
Play to win the game.
How and why have we forgotten this? Why have we forgotten this lately? It's not about second place. It's not about third place. You know, you can say good, good season. You know, we'll improve on this next year. But when did we start celebrating the people who lost more than the people who won? Herm. It's a hell of a quote. You play to win the game.
It doesn't matter who you are, what your abilities are, what level you're playing at, what kind of sport you're playing, or who you're up against. You play to win the game. Remember that as we talk about Bill Russell.
Right.
You play to win the game. Because when you look at sports and competition at its fundamental level, it is that simple. So, did he win? Hell yes, he won. In his 13 NBA seasons, Bill Russell captured 11 titles, more than any other professional team athlete of note.
Good God. I haven't really seen it laid out like this. So they got one chip in 57, 58, they didn't do it, but then after this, let's see. 1, 2, oops. Yeah, and I know I love my John Madden pen. You can make fun of me all you want. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row. Then they took a little break there, and then they repeated again. What the heck is that? God.
8 of them came consecutively. I'll come right out and say it. If you want the GOAT conversation to be about winning, oh yeah, this guy had a great career, but this other guy just wanted to win more. This guy wanted to win more than anything. That's why he's better. I want winners. If that's the way we're going to do this, then you have to crown Bill Russell.
For sure.
But was Russell an awe-inspiring athletic specimen? Nope. For that kind of player, you look to guys like Wilt and Shaq and LeBron. Was he a transcendent scorer? Like I said earlier, no. Players like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were in another stratosphere in that department. Here's what Bill Russell was. He was a natural athlete at 6'10". He glided across the court with the balance and grace of a 6'3" guard. Vertically, he was springy and had the uncanny ability to seemingly jump twice in the same instant.
Yeah.
He was strong.
Dennis Rodman also was a master at that.
Surprisingly lean and gangly, 220 pounds of all arms and legs. He had a level of anticipation and awareness that was second to none. Put it all together and you get the second highest rebounding average of any player ever. you also get the most domineering defender in basketball history. Historically, Russell was a basketball pioneer in an almost literal sense. In high school and college, he was told constantly that to be a great defender, you had to keep your feet on the floor at all times, so as to afford yourself the most maneuverability possible. Russell refuted these ideas, and instead leapt emphatically to meet defenders around the rim and block their shots into the arms of his teammates.
Yeah, if you have that intuition and that instinct and timing, no, man, go for it.
Guys from back then described Russell as an almost nightmarish entity, someone who would lurk in plain sight and strike without warning. He would wage psychological warfare on his enemies through intimidation and exude an aura that demanded an equal amount of fear and respect. He could guard behemoths at his position like Wilt and Nate Thurmond, but he could also switch onto guards with an insignificant drop in proficiency. Moreover, at the NBA level, with Red Auerbach's help, Russell became the linchpin in the Boston Celtics' patented fast break offense. Russell would contest a shot, secure the rebound, and push the ball forward to his streaking teammates so as to attack a defense on its heels.
What a pass.
I know that doesn't sound like much today. The fast break is a part of every offensive system in the NBA and has been for decades. But Russell deserves credit as being the anchor of the NBA's most prolific defense and for being the cornerstone of an innovative
man, look at him go. Look at him flow.
Offensive system. Wait, Bill Russell was an innovative offensive player? But I thought he had sub-average offensive numbers. His shooting percentages weren't very good. He didn't average that many points. What are you getting at, Clayton?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't his job, though. He had Kuzi, right?
The truth, my good man. But seriously, free your mind from the idea that a great offensive player can only be the guy who puts the ball through the net. Russell's court vision and passing ability were the keys to the engine of the Boston offense. You don't care, though. His stats weren't good, and that's that.
No, I care.
So let's talk about statistics.
Stats are overrated.
The important statistics in basketball are supposed to be points scored, rebounds, and assists. But nobody keeps statistics on other important things. The good fake you make that helps your teammates score. The bad pass you force the other team to make. The good long pass you make that sets up another pass, that sets up another pass that leads to a score. The way you recognize when one of your teammates has a hot hand that night and you give up your own shot so that he can take it. All of those things. Those were some of the things we excelled in that you won't find in the statistics. There was only one statistic that was important to us. Won and lost.
Yep. W's or L's.
Sorry. I slipped into first person there because I was reading a Bill Russell quote.
Huh.
As if my job wasn't hard enough.
Wait. Oh, you were literally... Excuse me. Good fake. He was literally reading a Bill Wall. Okay.
Because I was reading a Bill Russell quote.
Wow.
As if my job wasn't hard enough, stats like steals and blocks, defensive stats, didn't start getting recorded until the mid-70s. The only stat I can give you is defensive win shares. Games that a team won that can be attributed in part or in full to a player's defensive contributions.
Okay. Damn, man. Look at Timmy. Look at Timmy. Anybody who's wondering why he's on my top 10, look at Timmy. KG's in there, Malone, Hakeem. Dude, look at Hakeem. Kareem. That's awesome. Elvin Hayes, shout out.
No one has yet to come within even 80% of matching Bill Russell's 13-year career total in that category.
Wow. The difference between 1 and 2 is basically the equivalent of the difference between 2 and 8. I'm not going to bust out the calculator, but I think that's going to math like pretty much on the money there. That's insane.
And now we're back to winning. The most important virtue of an athlete, right?
Yep.
It's how this debate always goes. 3 rings is more than 2.
Yep.
5 rings is more than 3.
Yep.
6 rings is more than 5. So why isn't 11 the largest number? I'll tell you why. There are 3 main reasons that people don't acknowledge the most decorated champion of all time as the greatest of all time.
I'm glad he's doing this too. Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about it.
In the order I'll talk about them, they are that Wilt was better, that his era was weak, and that his team was stacked.
Yep.
First up, we have his friend,
Nailed it.
rival, and antithesis, Wilt Chamberlain. The careers of Wilt and Russell overlapped for about 10 years, and in those 10 years, the two became harbingers of the NBA as we know it. Their friendship, play styles, size, and championship disparity painted the two as inverses of each other. They are immortalized together as 2 sides of the same coin. Because they played in a bygone era, many basketball fans take to all-time leaderboards and the pages of record books to gain a better understanding of these 2 men. Statistically, the comparison is a no contest. Wilt was and is a basketball anomaly.
Yeah.
Wilt scored the most points in a game ever, had the most points in a season, remains the league's all-time rebounder, logged the most rebounds in a game, and so on. And not only did Wilt set all of these records, but he put the bar so far out of reach that we'll see colonies on Mars before we see all of his records surpassed. How do I even begin to suggest that Russell is the superior basketball player?
I mean, he's only lacking in one statistic or one accolade. Championships, man, he didn't win. He won, what, 2? I believe he won 2 championships, which puts him in the Isaiah Thomas club. But it's such an anomaly because he really was, I mean, from what we understand, just a basketball freak. But it didn't end in wins, and that's what always makes Wilt Chamberlain so hard for me to decide where to put him on my list. Because to tell you the truth, I put him in my top 10, but there's no one in there that there's no one in my top 10 that hasn't won at least 4 championships, other than Wilt Chamberlain. I don't know about you guys. Like, where do you have him placed in yours? And how do you decide how to place Wilt Chamberlain? It's really tough.
Russell played in the same era, and so you'd think he would benefit from the same era advantages like Wilt did. But where Wilt averaged 30 points a game, Russell averaged just a paltry 15. Their field goal percentages are similarly lopsided. Only in rebounding do the two seem comparable, with staggering averages and untouchable career totals. There's really no argument, right? Well, the two played 143 total games against each other. That's almost 15% of all the games that Bill Russell ever played in. In the 94 regular season games they went head-to-head, Russell's team won 57 times. In the 49 playoff games that they saw each other, Russell's team won 29 times.
And the reason why the winning is so important, guys, is that if you just take someone's individual stats and they don't win, and you say that's the greatest player, okay, but basketball's not an individual sport, it's a team sport. So the idea is to be the best player, yes, but also to be the best leader of a team, and you can bring them to victory over and over and over again. If this was one-on-one, like street hoops one-on-one, then yeah, we would just be looking for the best hooper all in all. But in basketball, it gets complicated because we have to look for the best leader as well. Same thing in football. We're not looking for the guy, the quarterback who's got the best arm in NFL history. We're looking for the best arm combined with, did you lead your team to championships? Hence why I don't think Tom Brady necessarily is the best passer of all time. I really don't. I've got a list of guys I would put above him. However, he's the greatest winning quarterback of all time. So that's why he's on that top of the list.
But hey, those are team records. Even looking at the box scores of those games and playoff series show that Wilt got his no matter what. Surely there must be some way to award a player for his individual expertise. Something like the MVP award, the most valuable player, the player who adds the most to his team and gives them the best chance to win, regardless of the players that he plays with. That should be worth something, right? Especially considering that, until 1980, the MVP award was voted on by the league's players. If Russell's teams were so unfairly stacked, surely his peers would see this and understand that he was simply the beneficiary of a rigged system, right? And they'd give Wilt the award year in and year out because he was the best individual, right? Right. Look, Wilt won 4 MVP awards during his career.
4? Okay.
But it's not as many as Russell. Russell won the NBA's most prestigious award, signifying the most valuable individual talent in the NBA, 5 times. 5. The rest of the NBA looked at the Boston Celtics.
Is he tied with Jordan at 5? I think they both have the same, right?
However talented they might have been, and recognized that it was Bill Russell who made them tick, and they had no problem voting him over Wilt. You want to know Russell's favorite award that he ever won in the NBA? His 1962 NBA MVP award. Why? Because that was the season Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double. And it was the year that Wilt averaged 50 points a game. Russell averaged 18 points and 29 rebounds. Wilt's Warriors would take the Celtics to a Game 7 in that year's playoffs.
But we all know what happens in Game 7s against Bill Russell. Damn, man, he got close.
Lose in the game's dying seconds. Russell held the Wilt Chamberlain that had averaged 50 points that season to just 28 in the most important game of the season. And in the finals, the Celtics would find themselves in another Game 7 against the Lakers, this time in an overtime period that would decide the champion. Sam Jones and Bill Russell combined for 9 points in overtime, giving Boston their 4th championship in a row. Russell would end the game with 30 points and 44 rebounds. And now, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I wasn't alive to see Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain. There's a level of context I'll never have because I didn't live through that era.
Me too, buddy.
So why don't we hear from some of the people who did?
Oh, yeah.
Jerry West, Chamberlain's teammate from 1969 to 1973, said, "I don't want to rap Wilt because I believe only Russell was better, and I really respect what Wilt did. But I have to say, he wouldn't adjust to you. You had to adjust to him."
Oh, that also kind of pushes that, LeBron James narrative. Because a lot of people nowadays, including myself a little bit, I have to admit, we tend to see Wilt as like a stat pattern, because just like LeBron, it doesn't usually end or result in winning anything of substance. But he sure does rack up a lot of stats throughout the season. But that one also, the way Jerry West said it, you have to adjust to him. He won't adjust to you. So it's like it's his system. And he's not willing to change in order to win a championship, which, I mean, I got to tell you, I always have Bill Russell one ahead of Wilt. And I think that just like stamps it for me. And I just got to remember this is the reason why.
1975 Finals MVP and Hall of Famer Rick Barry said, "I'll say what most players feel, which is that Wilt is a loser. He is terrible in big games. When it comes down to the
Hold on. Who's saying this? My bad.
75 Finals MVP and Hall of Famer Rick Barry said, "I'll say what most players feel, which is that Wilt is a loser. He is terrible in big games.
Damn.
When it comes down to the closing minutes of a tough game, an important game, he doesn't want the ball."
Oh my God. Okay. So he was a giant LeBron James. And I know that's going to piss off some people. But, I try to keep it real. I try my best to keep it 100% real. And I know a lot of you have Wilt as the GOAT. I know. I hear from you guys. I'm not trying to change your mind or anything, but I'm telling you why he can't be my GOAT. And, yeah, if you're not going to be clutch and you're just racking up a lot of stats but not winning championships for your team, then you've done the individual aspect of the game correctly, but you haven't done the leader aspect of winning a team sport and being the greatest in a team sport. My opinion, though, my opinion, and we all have different views, but that's my opinion.
He doesn't want any part of the pressure. It is at these times that greatness is determined.
Yes, it is.
And Wilt doesn't have it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1990 wrote this, an open letter to Wilt Chumperlane. "It's been several years now, Wilt, that you have been criticizing my career with your friends in the press. After any tough test in which you didn't do well, you blamed those around you and quit."
Oh my God. It once again, I don't have to keep repeating. It's just this eerie. It's eerie how close this is to LeBron.
"People will remember that I worked with my teammates and helped us win. You will be remembered as a whining crybaby and a quitter, stats and all." Stories abound about Wilt's infatuation with statistics, from correcting scorekeepers to scolding teammates for not making baskets that would have counted towards his assist totals.
Oh, that's weak.
In 1965, the Warriors felt that Wilt was toxic and decided to trade him. One of the prospective landing spots for the Big Dipper was none other than the Los Angeles Lakers, where Jerry West and Elgin Baylor desperately needed someone to throw at Russell. The Lakers management decided to poll the players on whether the team should trade for Chamberlain.
Wow.
The poll resulted in a 9-2 decision against bringing Wilt to the team.
Wow.
Is it fair to call Wilt a loser? No.
Wow. Okay. Did you guys hear that? So out of the 11 players, 9 voted no. We don't want Wilt Chamberlain here. That's powerful. Those are his peers. And in the moment, it's not like in hindsight where they're like, yeah, he was trash. No. They had the opportunity to get him now. That's wild, you guys.
No. But did he make his teammates better? Rarely. Wilt played in 9 Game 7s. Russell played in 10. Wilt lost 5 of his.
Ouch.
Russell never did. Okay, but back then there were like 8 teams, nobody was very tall, there was just a bunch of scrawny non-athletes.
Yeah, this is my biggest problem with naming either Bill or Wilt the GOAT. And I know that's controversial to say, but it's hard for me, man, with 8 teams. And I know the argument, it's more concentrated, you know, all the best talent are on those 8 teams, so it's not watered down. I don't know, man. It's just such a different league at this point.
Russell couldn't hold Joel Embiid's jockstrap today.
Oh, come on.
If you abide by the he was good for his time, but he couldn't hang today mindset, I need you to be consistent. I need you to acknowledge that across the board. You've painted yourself into a corner that states that the greatest athlete will always be the newest one. That Aroldis Chapman is historically a greater baseball player than Babe Ruth.
No way, you get Bill Russell with today's technology and medicine and all the money that's being thrown at these NBA franchises, all the resources they have, all the training they have. Guys like Bill Russell would be just fine if they were born in this era.
Because Chapman would smoke Babe Ruth like a dad playing wiffle ball with his son. That if someday the NBA implements a 4-point shot, you immediately have to look at Steph Curry and say, yeah, he was a good shooter for his time, but he couldn't cut it today. His era was easier.
Right.
If he played today, he'd just be an average shooter. In that world, no one will ever hold the crown for long, because time will pass, and modern athletes inevitably age into ancient ones. So isn't the fairest way to evaluate these players to look at what they did in the context of their eras?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I agree. That's why you have to dominate your era. You have to be the greatest in your era before you can be considered the greatest of all time. Easy. I mean, that one's just like common sense.
I think so, because I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Everybody had era-specific advantages. Great players are great because they exploit them.
What a block.
All right, let's try to get some context. I think that Russell's 11 championships actually hurt him historically in this way. It's such an incomprehensible number that it just lends itself to people trying to poke holes in it or find ways to discredit him. 11 is just too big of a number, right? Jordan has 6, and we know the stories of all 6.
Yeah.
We can remember who LeBron and Kobe beat to win their championships and what it meant to them. It's hard to do that with 11, and it's even harder to do that when they happened in the ballpark of 60 years ago. I briefly touched on 62, so here's a little more context for you.
I'm impressed with his left-hand dribbling for a big guy. I've seen him run to break so many times in the background here.
After 8 straight titles for Boston, Wilt and the 1967 76ers put the league on notice. They won a league record 68 games and disrupted the Celtics' streak in just 5 games. They put the ribbon on their season weeks later when they won the championship. And then, the very next year, the 76ers entered the playoffs with the best record in the league. Wilt led the league in assists and won the MVP. When they met the Celtics in the Eastern Finals, they racked up a 3-1 lead. And then, as player-coach of the Celtics, Bill Russell engineered the greatest comeback basketball had ever seen, becoming the first team to ever overcome a 3-1 deficit. Wilt did not attempt a field goal in the second half of Game 7. Russell did damn near everything.
Can you say that again?
Wilt did not attempt a field goal in the second half of Game 7.
Guys, who's it remind you of? Dang. Why would he do that? Why are you doing that? Your team needs you, man.
Russell did damn near everything to ice the game in its final minute. 1966 was Red Auerbach's last year. He began the season by telling his contemporaries that this was their last shot to beat him. After defeating the Oscar Robertson Royals and Wilt 76ers, the Lakers and the Celtics went the distance in the finals. In Game 7, an inspired Russell helped fend off an intense Lakers rally in the final period, tallying 25 points and 32 rebounds to send his coach out as a winner. Go look up his teams. You'll see that 1965 was Russell's best team. You might think it was easier back then, though, because Russell was playing against a bunch of nobodies. And you've got me there. He only had to go through Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Hal Greer, Dolph Schayes, Oscar Robertson, Willis Reed, Nate Thurmond, Walt Frazier, and Bob Pettit. You know, a bunch of nobodies. The fact is that the weak era argument is, more often than not, an excuse made by people who want to discredit a player from before their time who can't be bothered to look them up and try to learn about them. Listen, I know it's crazy to think about how long basketball's been around. I know it's crazy trying to convince you that the first truly great player from the game's first truly great era was the greatest of them all. The odds that the first model was the best model are astronomical. It doesn't make it impossible, though. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that 8 teams actually made the league tougher, or that players from back then were just as good as they are today. And I don't have to. We're looking at this in context. The league was chock full of Hall of Famers and all-time greats, and the Celtics played in enough Game 7s that any rational observer would look at it and see that it wasn't easy for Russell. But wait, there's more.
Whoa.
Because it wasn't just that Russell played in a weak era. He played with the better team every single year. If you didn't know, I've actually already made the case that Wilt was the greatest basketball player of all time. And I said this: Bill Russell consistently had better teammates than Wilt Chamberlain did. That's as good as a fact to me, and I will maintain it even when I make the case for Bill Russell.
Okay.
So here I am saying...
That's why I like it, by the way. He's fair. He's fair about it.
Bill Russell often had the best team in the NBA. And that makes sense, right? You don't win one championship without a great team, let alone 11. And Russell had a great team, a legendary coach, and talented teammates. Bob Cousy was the league's second MVP ever, and John Havlicek helped lead the Celtics to 2 more titles in the 70s. Plus, guys like Casey Jones, Bill Sharman, Frank Ramsey, Tommy Heinsohn, and Sam Jones are all in the Hall of Fame. But is it that simple? Like I said earlier, the players voted on MVPs during those days, and Russell won 5 of them. So, however stacked his team might have felt to the rest of the league, they still acknowledged that Russell made it all work. And look at those Hall of Famers that Russell played with and how many championships they won. There's no way the Hall of Fame could leave these guys out, right? So was it that Russell was actually playing alongside a 12-man roster of Monstars? Or were those guys Hall of Famers because they played alongside Bill Russell?
That is a very good argument. Well done there, sir. That's an interesting question, and you do have to wonder it, because the truly great players elevate their team to a whole nother level. People who never had any business being all-stars become all-stars when they play alongside a great one.
I would argue that he had the better team all those years because those teams all had Bill Russell. He never cared about anything other than winning. He put himself and his teammates in position to win, time and time and time again. I know I keep repeating the number, but 11 championships. Yeah. That's not a fluke. That's a team galvanized by a once-in-a-generation talent and a once-in-a-lifetime leader. There's no evidence that indicates that the Celtics would have enjoyed anything close to the amount of successes they did without Russell. The year before they got Russ, they were 39-33. The year after he retired, they were 34-48. Russell would throw up before big games throughout his career. It was a ritual that his teammates initially found unsettling, but eventually came to find a serene...
It's a welcome sound. It's a welcome sound, too, because it means he's keyed up for the game. And around the locker room, we grin and say, man, we're going to be all right tonight. That's so funny. Oh, man, Big Bill is throwing up. That's John Havlicek, by the way.
Confidence in. Bill was setting an example. Their best player, despite all of the honors that he had won and all of the champagne he had drank, still cared that much about winning. That's maybe the most impressive thing to me. He never rested on his laurels, never used past accomplishments as justifications for anything. He withstood the test of time and the temptations of self-interest. He never stopped caring, and so his teammates didn't either. So when Sam Jones hits a game winner, or Tom Heinsohn explodes in a playoff game, don't take credit away from them, but know that they are the ones who will tell you that it was Russell who made it all possible. Please don't make me keep going. Fine. Bill Russell was cut from his high school JV team in his sophomore season. He was raw, lacked fundamentals, and was driven by unrefined passion alone. Then, as a junior and senior, he led the team to back-to-back state titles. Colleges didn't care though, and he didn't receive a single offer from any college. That is, until a scout from the University of San Francisco saw him and offered him a scholarship. In his 3 varsity years at USF, Russell helped turn a relatively unremarkable team into a perennial powerhouse. He went 71-8 and won 2 national championships. His junior year, the Dons started the season unranked. By the end of the season, they were the #1 team in the country and the national champions. In his senior year, the team went undefeated and carried the #1 ranking wire to wire. At one point, USF had a win streak of 55 games. Of the players on that team...
Okay, so before we get too far here, what this is establishing is that the argument that a lot of people use, and I've actually used this argument myself, is that it was stacked. You know, he was on a stacked Boston Celtics team, et cetera, et cetera. But he was doing this before he got to the Celtics. So this does establish a very important precedence here that he is just a winner.
Only Casey Jones would go on to the NBA and, ironically, to play with Russell. Bill Russell is basketball minded.
So only 2 players on that team ended up being NBA basketball players, and he was one of them. And Casey Jones was another one. Ended up coaching the Celtics at a point too. So, yeah, the longer I'm watching this, the more I think I'm very content where I have Bill Russell on my ranking. What I'm thinking now, I need to reassess Wilt Chamberlain. That's really what I'm thinking.
Every team he touches turns to gold. And oh, by the way, Bill Russell's career coincided with the civil rights movement of the 1960s in a truly surreal way. He endured a disheartening amount of injustice during his career with a grace and pride that is worthy of remembrance in and of itself. But he did more than that, using his position to challenge the establishments around him and effect change. He was a leading voice at the Muhammad Ali Summit in Cleveland. He was at the March on...
Look at this, guys. Come on. Look at this. This is so cool, man. What a gathering.
Summit in Cleveland. He was at the March on Washington and in attendance for Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. He didn't attend his own Hall of Fame induction because he thought that someone like Chuck Cooper deserved to be the first African-American inductee rather than himself.
Wow.
He was denied rooms in hotels and service in restaurants on basketball road trips.
Terrible.
And so he refused to play. When Red Auerbach retired after the 66 season, Russell became the first black head coach in any of the 4 major American sports.
Way to go, Red. Good job, man.
While he was playing for the Celtics, vandals broke into his suburban home, spray-painted racist graffiti on the walls, broke his trophies, and defecated on his bed. His contributions to the civil rights movement are as important and notable as any other athlete. He helped light the torch that athletes today continue to carry. Does this necessarily make him the greatest player of all time? No. But when you think about what he was able to accomplish, I don't know how you could be anything but awestruck.
Yeah. I mean, it just establishes that he wasn't just a great basketball player, but a great human being. And he was willing to fight not just on the court, but, you know, for his own benefit. He was willing to fight for the benefit of the greater whole. You establish that was a good man. Does it matter as far as basketball rankings? No. Does it matter as far as knowing the person? Hell yeah, it does, man. Miss Bill. I miss seeing Bill Russell around. I really do.
What is greatness? It's a question worth discussing, even if there are multiple answers with equal validity. One answer might be this, that greatness is the absence of potential. Bill Russell couldn't control how tall he was, or how much muscle mass his body could support, how fast he could run, how quickly he could jump. There are a host of things that might hinder or accentuate an individual's potential. Greatness is when, at the end of the road, you can look at that individual and say with certainty, there is no more potential. Every ounce got drained. Every possibility exhausted. The tank got empty, and the fight got fought. There was simply nothing left. That's a form of greatness worth celebrating. Bill Russell didn't dominate basketball. He conquered it. He ruled a sport for 13 years. Any uprisings or revolutions were succinctly quelled. There is perhaps no term more aptly suited for the totality of what he created than the word dynasty. He was the greatest defender basketball has ever seen. He steered basketball into the modern era. He created a culture from scratch. His loyalties did not belong to fans or the media or to Boston. His loyalty belonged to the Celtics. There is such a thing as a platonic idea, named after the philosopher Plato. Take, for instance, a chair. You know what a chair is. You have in your mind the idea of a chair. They might look different, be made out of different material, and serve different purposes. But a chair is recognizable because you have the platonic idea of a chair. You might have heard this term used to describe friendships. A platonic friendship is one centered around the very essence of friendship itself, not romance or sexual gratification or convenient utility, but simply because you enjoy being in that person's company. Bill Russell, more than anyone, unlocked the platonic idea of basketball. And I think in a big way, that's why we love sports. Sports is one of the most organic and compelling storytelling devices that we have ever found. Sports tell a story, and in that story, we hope to find pieces of ourselves. In the platonic idea of basketball, we find things like compassion, selflessness, solidarity, resiliency, and triumph. There's one last thing that sums it all up: the 1969 finals. It's Russell's last year, and the Celtics are running on fumes. They finished the season 48-34, their worst record since they drafted him. Still, they roll through the East and find themselves matched up against the Lakers, with Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, and Wilt Chamberlain. The Celtics are massive underdogs.
What a big three.
Finally, Russell's most bitter rivals will reach the top of the mountain and send him out a loser. But Boston won't go down without a fight. The series goes to 7 games. Every game but one is decided in the single digits.
Can you guys imagine being on that Celtics team? Like, I would run through a brick wall for Bill Russell at that point. Like, the inspiration his team must have had, knowing that this is his last run. This is his last dance.
Russell's scoring days are over. These days, he leads his team by cleaning the boards and setting up his teammates. In Game 7, his swan song. In Los Angeles, Bill Russell and the Celtics did what they always did. They found a way, and they won.
This poetry.
Here, after cementing himself as the greatest basketball player of all time, is the platonic idea of basketball.
Yes, I'm here with Bill Russell. Bill, this must have been a great win for you. Exactly.
Wow. What a way to go. What a way to go. Wow. Wow. What a video. I like it. You don't even have to say anything on the outro. You already did it. Wow. Dude, he did such a good job here that, you know, if this was like the first thing I ever watched about basketball and I didn't grow up with it and all that, I'd walk away from this probably putting him at number 1 in my number 1 spot all time. Because wow, what a case he made this whole time. And then that beautiful poetry at the end. It's not poetry, but the way he left off this video is just amazing. Well done. 10 out of 10. Thank you again for giving me the extra kick in the butt in the comments to finally react to this. It's far overdue. Okay. So what did I say in the beginning? Okay, I wanted you guys to rank him in the beginning of the video, so hopefully you did that. Now, drop a new comment, rank him again. I have to admit, I'm not moving him. I mean, the one thing I'm gonna have to do is put him head-to-head against Kareem. Because I have Kareem above Bill. And I'm very content with all my other selections, but I think I have to reassess Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell. So this video did actually have an impact. I don't know 100% if he's gonna move a spot or if he's not. But all right, now it's your turn, you guys, because I think I have him at 6. I think that's where Bill Russell's gonna stay for a long time with me. But like I said, I'm not 100% on it anymore. Wilt Chamberlain, I might have to reassess that because there are guys like, say, Tim Duncan that might need to be ahead of him. But okay, your turn, guys. Where do you rank now that you watched the video? Leave a new comment because I don't get to see the replies. Leave a new comment. Where do you have Bill Russell ranked now? After watching this, has it changed? Is it the same? Let me know. And then also, I really need to know where you guys have Wilt Chamberlain ranked. I've never struggled so much with placing a player as I have with Wilt Chamberlain. And at a certain point, he was like number 1 or number 2 on a lot of lists. And then, you know, the 90s happened. And that blew that up because that was such a great era. And everything that's happened since. So I don't know where to put Wilt. But anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching with me. I'm going to go ahead and end this because I have to think about it on my own. And if I just keep talking, I'm just going to be talking through my thoughts here. And, no one wants to listen to that crap. So, all right, guys, I'm out. Thank you for watching. Once again, if this video didn't convince you to subscribe over to Clayton Crowley's channel, then, it is what it is. But I think it's phenomenal. And this video just reaffirmed that for me because it's been a while since I watched one of his vids. And this was absolutely great. Yeah, leave any suggestions down below for what you want me to react to. Like the vid, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. And most importantly, be water, my friends.